Well, this is a celebration of the start of the Revolutionary War back in 1776, 75, and we're just starting. A lot of historical societies in Dutchess County are having events. I think ours is probably the first one, and we will continue to have. I think we're all done this year, but we've got several planned for next year and several talks at various places already scheduled for this fall.
Freedom Day, Freedom Park. It's kind of a double meaning for our town because our town originally was called Freedom when it was first founded in 1821. We had to change the name to LaGrange in about 1829 because there was another Freedom, so postage was getting mixed up. So we became LaGrange, but we always have that legacy of freedom. Freedom Plains, Freedom Park. So our town in 1775 didn't actually exist. We were actually, part of the town was Rombout, and the other part was Beekman. And if you see this map that I was able to have a graphic designer do, we had a map of Rombout, we had a map of Beekman, but we didn't have them together. So he put them together, and that little red outline is LaGrange, what LaGrange was. And you can see it was really sparsely settled. This map is actually from the 1790s, about 20 years after the Revolution, but it still shows that it was really more of a farming community. I was able to do some research about Rombout and Beekman in 1775, and I found out that a lot of the farmers here sold their grain and wheat to the Continental Army, and then we actually have the receipts for that. There was also a situation where the farmers of Rombout, they had horses and guns that they either sold or donated to the Continental Army. So that was really interesting to find out. The dividing line between Rombout and Beekman is called the Patent Line, and it's actually a stone wall that still exists in LaGrange in some places. You can see it. It's a little bit past Stringham, and it goes up Freedom Road, up to Rombout Road. So it's probably the oldest structure in our town, that patent wall. So most of the families in LaGrange joined the Patriot side, but there were a few who were loyalists, and I did find out some of the history of Gilbert Livingston, who was probably the most prominent loyalist in our town. He actually had to leave during the Revolution because he was a loyalist, and he would have gotten probably in trouble, his property confiscated, probably put in jail, fined. So he fled to Canada, but when the war was over, he and his family came back to the town. And his house still is there. It's on Barmar Road. But the other person, the other family that was pretty prominent was the Patriot family of the Slates. And Colonel Slate actually served in the Continental Army during the Revolution, and he was there when the British burned Kingston, and some of his family members lost their homes. And so you have these two families, one patriot, one loyalist, who both, they suffered quite a bit, and because of the choices that they made. The other complication for LaGrange is that we had two big communities of Quakers in our town. And the Quakers were famous pacifists, and they didn't want to take any sides. And so when the Rombout leaders came around and demanded that all of the male heads of households sign a loyalty oath to the American government, they refused to sign it. And so many of them were also in trouble. They didn't get arrested, but they were fined, and some actually had to leave. So this is part one of the history of LaGrange during the Revolution. I focused on 1775. Next year, which will be the 1776 version of the history of the town, a lot more happened in LaGrange and the area too, because the British are going to be invading New York City, and our area is kind of caught in between because we have the British in New York City, and then you have the Patriots in Albany, and we kind of had almost a civil war going on in our town, brother against brother, family against family. And so, but 1775, we were still a quiet farming community, and were able to just keep farming, supplying the military, and but next year, for the official 250th anniversary, we'll find out what happens. So to be continued on this. So now we have a reading of the Declaration of Independence by George Washington.
Oops, lost my sash. That's all right. Greetings, everyone. As I told my men in Newburgh at one time, you'll have to permit me to put on my spectacles, for I have not only grown gray, but almost blind in the service of my country. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed, that whatever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evince a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused to assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws for immediate and pressing importance, and there's 25 additional grievances which we won't visit at this time. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislator to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assemble appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions due in the name, by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of the right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all the other acts and things which independent states may of right to do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to offer our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And such it is signed by, from New York, was signed by William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Frank Lewis, and Lewis Morris.
winner. We had an essay contest for the 250th anniversary, and we have the winner, Magdalena Lucal from Millbrook High School. Would you like to come on up?
I would like Greg Pollner from the president of the Rotary Club, because they donated the money for the prize, and I think he should be one to hand this nice young lady a check.
Thank you. Congratulations.
There you go. And I was remiss, we have a couple of politicians here. Mike, Ryan, you want to stand up and say hello? That's all you're allowed to do, just say hello.
Thank you very much for letting me be here today. I get to present my essay, so thank you very much for this opportunity. For many of us today in America, freedom has become so rooted in our society that times without it are being forgotten. While this loss of history is frustrating, it's important to see this forgetfulness as a success as well. This ignorance means that the war for freedom this country has been fighting since its very birth is being won. Our predecessors' goal is being met because a world where many wake up, without fear of injustice or brutality, has begun forming. Though it is unlikely that when the American colonists banded together to stand against the British, they were thinking as far ahead as 2025, what the future would hold did drive them. Facing unfair taxation as well as limitations on trade through the many different acts created by Parliament, American colonists were being given a choice. Either continue to be ruled by a government that did not give them the freedom they deserved and preserve peace, or rise up against their rulers, risking war and violence for the point of making a better, stronger world. As can be seen, the latter was chosen, not just in hope of immediate benefits, but also because of how those benefits would continue on in time. Many colonists chose the road to freedom because they knew that their actions would not only be making a better world for themselves, but also for generations to come. Occurring in 1773, the Boston Tea Party is one of the most strongest examples of American colonist frustration leading to rebellion. Though occurring before the actual beginning of the war, it is an example of colonists choosing the American side over the British. It shows how American colonists had started to band together to reach a common goal, freedom from the British. Their hopes went beyond simply expressing their frustration with the government. Their actions at the Boston Tea Party were those whose goal was to convince more Americans to join the battle for freedom, and they succeeded. The actions of the colonists at the Boston Tea Party helped highlight the mistreatment they faced from the British government. After the events of the Boston Tea Party, rather than hearing the voices and complaints of the colonists, the British government cracked down on such revolts. The deterioration in treatment by the British government helped solidify the opinion that a revolution was needed. The actions of the American colonists at the Boston Tea Party were incredibly dangerous. Surrounded by armed British ships, it was likely that they would be attacked, yet the colonists did not back down. It was this dedication that allowed the Boston Tea Party to become such a core part of American history, as well as the Revolutionary War. The Boston Tea Party demonstrated American colonists' immense desire for freedom, as it showed that they would rather risk dying than live another day under the thumb of a government that did not respect them. The American drive for independence did not fizzle out once the revolution was over. To ensure that the newly formed nation would rise above the previous standards of life its inhabitants had endured, the desire for independence could not just disappear. In many of America's most crucial documents, freedom plays an immensely important role, the underlying theme in almost all proposals. For example, in the Declaration of Independence, freedom can be found in many of the proposals made within it. One of the most well-known lines from the document discusses freedom in every part of it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That quote, alongside many of its following lines, gives more freedom in than it felt it had under its previous government, and it does so in the earliest moments of its conception. Immediately, the document decides that man is born with rights that cannot be taken away from him. Man is brought into the world with certain freedoms that only leave him at his death. In the following lines, when it is determined that if man is once again ruled by an unfair government, he has the right to rebel against it, the freedom that is being given to the public is one that is meant to last to the end of time. The founders of America are not writing these principles with only the next 10 years in mind, but what they hope will be the long, fruitful life of a strong country. Through this language, they aim to prevent the same difficulties and oppression that plagued Americans in Britain from continuing on in the future. Though it is undeniable that America succeeded in its goal of breaking away from the British government and finding its foothold as a major power in the world, it is yet to be entirely free from oppression and discrimination. The freedom of people in America continues to be tested today, and while this difficulty has been improved upon in many ways, there is still much to be done before America can truly be free. The racism that existed in 1775 still exists today. Though the Declaration of Independence states man to be born with certain liberties, the exception that was made to exclude slaves from that statement then still exists today. America is a free country where you may live untouched by the chains of discrimination, but only if you fit into a certain category of person. The problem of inequality and prejudice has been improved upon. Slavery, for example, is outlawed, but it has not been entirely solved. Hate crimes against certain groups of people, such as African Americans, are seen and documented frequently. As government changes, so does the safety of those who, throughout history, have been consistent targets of racism. The question that was asked in 1775 has been given many answers over time, yet one response has yet to be chosen as correct. That question being, what is freedom and who does it include? What remains important is that the ideals that existed from the very birth of this nation continue today. Those ideals being breaking away from leaders whose only goal is to control rather than support, and developing a country where one's life is not under constant control. Though America has come a long way since its founding, it is not yet done growing. The American colonists that fought for freedom against an unfit government in the Revolution helped pave the way for the America we know today. Aiming to improve the futures of generations to come, these founders worked tirelessly to build a nation that would be able to withstand the lashes of time. Though America has been tested endlessly over the 250 years, it continues to pull through all that it has been challenged with and grow from its past. It has faced economic declines, world wars, and much inner turmoil, but the nation as a whole refuses to give up. Not just because it would mean the end to a nation that was fought so hard for, but also because America has earned something so great that anything is worth enduring to keep it: freedom. Thank you.
Okay, videos next.
Okay.
Okay.
You want,
We'll do Stewart's first, right? So we're happy to announce a multi-month project from the LaGrange Historical Society. It's called Knox's Cannonball Run, and it parallels the journey that Henry Knox took to help save the Continental Army in Boston. It's a very dramatic story. So we have the director of Fort Ticonderoga, who's going to tell you a little bit of background, and then we have 2 other videos to tell you a little bit about it. And then we'll tell you about the contest that you can sign up for.
Vice President of Public History here at Fort Ticonderoga. I am excited that you all are following the route of Henry Knox's noble training artillery as part of the LaGrange Historical Society's Spring celebration. Next to me is marker number 1 among 55 markers that chronicle Henry Knox's 56-day trip from Ticonderoga to Boston. Right now, 250 years ago, the events of the American Revolution had already sown the seeds of this remarkable journey. In the days following the Battle of Lexington Concord, folks like Benedict Arnold recommended the capture of Fort Ticonderoga for its cannon. Connecticut and Massachusetts launched their own separate expeditions, culminating with Ethan Allen, Benedict Arnold, and the Green Mountain Boys rushing into Fort Ticonderoga before dawn on May 10, 1775. The next day, Seth Warner led Green Mountain Boys to capture Fort Crown Point, where marker number 0 of this route stands today. Yet now, in July 1775, General Philip Schuyler rushed north to Ticonderoga to take command of the new Northern Department of the Continental Army. Soon he began preparing this army to attack British forts at Saint Jean and Chambly along the Richelieu River. When these forts fell to the Northern Army in the fall, General Schuyler forwarded their captured cannons to Ticonderoga. At the same time, Henry Knox outshined the American artillery commander at Bunker Hill in June, catching the attention of John Adams, who recommended Knox to the Continental Congress and George Washington when he took command of the Continental Army besieging Boston on July 3, 1775. Henry Knox departed Cambridge, Massachusetts on November 16, 1775. After stopping in New York City, Henry Knox headed to Ticonderoga, arriving late in the day on December 5th. He spent the next 4 days selecting and ferrying cannons to Lake George, a route noted by markers 2 and 3 today. Knox sailed up Lake George, assembling his noble train together at the south end, There, he famously hires drovers with sleds, teams of horses and oxen to bring this vital artillery to Boston. Knox achieved this momentum feat one leg at a time. I invite you to explore this remarkable achievement, both for its significance and to the perseverance of Knox and all the drovers who did their part in this journey. Their labor helped lead to the liberties we enjoy on this Freedom Day today.
So what we've done, we've set up a virtual mission that you can actually follow along the Knox Trail virtually. And if you look in the program, you'll see that you don't have to just walk. There's all sorts of activities that are included in this virtual mission. And we're starting it probably this coming week. We still have to set up with the website for my virtual mission. And we are just asking for a donation of $8 per person to join. That's how much it costs us per person on the website. And you'll be starting at Fort Ticonderoga and ending up right outside of Boston. We're going to do this through November. I know it took Henry Knox less time. He did 20 miles a day. I don't know if we can do that. So we're hoping for maybe a couple miles a day with all the different activities. And once you sign up, I'll send you the link, and then you can start inputting. You can manually input your miles each day, or you can have your Fitbit or any other type of fitness tracker linked with the website, and it'll do this automatically. And then in November, we're planning a big celebration of everyone who's participated, maybe awards for the people who have the quickest person or the person who had the most interesting methods of fitness. And so we have a sign-up sheet here. I just need your name and your email address. And then again, we're asking for a donation of $8 a person. And then along the way, you'll have 8 milestones where once you hit a certain city, you'll get a little history lesson about what happened with Henry Knox and the people who were with him and all like that. So if you're interested, please come over to our registration table. We have extra programs. We have the raffle that we're going to be pulling the winner at 1 o'clock, so please sign up for that. Also enjoy the refreshments while we get the band going. The band will be coming marching down in just a few minutes. So feel free to enjoy your picnic lunch or sign up or anything else. Thank you.
medley. One Street Beat, March to Boston. No marching. One Street Beat, Yankee Doodle. 1 Street Beat Rally. Mark time. March. One Street Beat Roving Sailor. Mark time. March. One Street Beat Minstrel Boy. Mark time. March. One street beat, whoop jamboree, mark time, march. One street beat, America the Beautiful, mark time, march.
Where do you want me to go?
Maybe up a little bit.
These guys?
Perfect, yeah, that's good, good, girl, go. All right, guys. There goes you.
You guys were awesome.
Tour dismiss.
Turn around and go 3 steps and 6.
My favorite thing about today, when the band was walking in and they started playing the drums, I got inspired, so I ran over to over there wherever they were doing the raffle, and I started to pretend like I was playing the drums. Yeah, I wanted to add that I also made a lot of friends here, and during the raffle, me and my sister did not win at all, but this nice lady, she said that because we were so nice, she gave it to us. We were so happy. I wish she could, if she's watching this, I just want to say thank you.
raffle. Let's see, shake it, shake it, shake it.
Yeah, these guys follow me around.
All right, so the winner of this amazing basket, which also has cookies, is Kay Smith. Is Kay Smith here? Zip code 12603.
Yeah, she is.
She's here. Oh, look at that! I even shook this upside down because you.
Wow.
And you still
That was
came
in
up.
the bottom.
I know. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yes, enjoy. Thank you.
Well, I learned about General Knox's trip, hauling cannons with oxes and anything else they could use from Fort Ticonderoga all over to Boston to attack the British, who were very much entrenched in Boston. I understand that the conditions, unbelievable. Snow, ice, mountains, and how they got them all there is a mystery, but it was just all done with hard labor and a few oxen and lots of determination. Well, it's important for people to learn about the history of our country. There are kids here didn't know anything about this stuff, and history is kind of forgotten by a lot of people. But you have events like this, and the kids show up, maybe they'll take some of that information home and realize what kind of a country this was and could be again. I don't think it's that way now, but hopefully it'll come back.